Love Story for Witches is a novel that deals with the idea of, love and our fear of love and saying the word love. So it's about this guy, Adam, who lives in New York City, and all he wants is to find the girl of his dreams, and he is just so unlucky in love. And he's been talking with this girl online for a while because he likes to do a lot of internet, online dating. And they finally meet after months of talking, and he finds out that she is a witch. And in a world where witches kill each other for power and are also forbidden to love for fear that they'll lose all their power just from saying the words love, this becomes quite a problem for Adam, who just wants to be in a relationship right this second. And so it really explores, relationships in the here and now in the 21st century, and just, how different people perceive love and the word itself and what it means to different people. That's always been a really, really important thing to me. I really like talking about, how people connect and how two people from completely different worlds can find a connection through something. And I think especially living in New York City, people are terrified to fall in love. Everybody wants to have a date, but the second they get into a relationship, they're suddenly filled with all of this fear. We want so badly to be in a relationship, but we are so terrified to be in a relationship. If I was going to write a story in New York, it couldn't just be in New York, it had to be about New York. And a story about dating, that's super New York. I think Witches was something that I really wanted to get into. For a long time, everything I wrote was science fiction, and I wanted to write fantasy, but fantasy is a whole other animal. But I knew that I would only be willing to do it and not terrified of getting into it if I found the right story with the right characters that kind of paved the way for me. The very first character I ever came up with is the female lead of the story. Her name is Eva Gray. And I was walking my dog one night along the Hudson River just listening to music, and I had this very distinct vision of her walking down an alleyway with a staff in her hand. It was dragging along the ground behind her, like shooting sparks everywhere. From that moment, I knew I wanted to tell this girl's story. I was so compelled by her. I really wanted to know more about her. I really like a lot of anime, and in anime you have a lot of different girls with different powers. These different girls have these different abilities, and I also really like things like X-Men. So creating a world of characters where each girl had their own unique way of showing magic and fighting with magic. Eva uses a staff, but there's another character who uses spray paint that she shoots from a spray can as a way of making magic. Another girl uses paper cranes, which she folds. And so these characters just really came to life in a way that they were just so different, even though they were all using the same magic. The cast is extremely diverse. I don't think I've ever written anything where the cast wasn't diverse. We have everything from, Miyako is a young Japanese girl, Eva is Hispanic, Adam is, typical white guy. We have, everyone from, we have a black character, we have gay characters, we have lesbian characters, we have straight characters. It's a great book for anyone, and I really am proud of the fact that the cast is super diverse. Everybody in the cast is a different race. Most of them are different sexual orientations, different religions, and I think that's really, really cool. Everything I've ever written is extremely personal to me. I put a lot of myself into my characters. Last year I went through a pretty intense breakup with someone that I'd been with for a long time. And then from there had to really kind of rebuild my life. I met someone new. You really get put into perspective just what that other person in your life can mean to you and how they can change you. And I've talked about this a lot on my blog, but earlier this year, right around the time where I was offered the book deal, I was diagnosed with lung cancer. And so sitting down to write the book was no longer about, can I turn this story into a novel? It was more about, can I tell this story before something bad happens? And so this story is especially personal to me because it deals with all of those things from this past year. It deals with, relationships and heartbreak and love and, falling in love with someone for the first time and saying those words for the first time. It deals with losing someone you love and how that can be so difficult. It deals with, death and loss, but also hope. And I think those are all things that have been so important to me this past year that now they're really ingrained in this book, but wrapped up in this, really fun, energetic fantasy world with these really interesting characters. But I think the deep themes of it really deal with, love, loss, and hope, and how those three interconnect with each other. A Love Story for Witches is definitely more of a young adult book. It's not a great book for kids. I do like to put that warning out there, but it's good for young adults to adults. And it's right along the lines of, I would say, things like Twilight or Hunger Games. If you're someone who reads those books, who's more about the young adult fiction, I think you'll really, really enjoy this book.